Say once again, good evening and welcome to the pre-camp webinar for Fire Mountain this summer. My name, if we haven't met yet, is Eric Buer, and I am your camp director this summer. Our program director is out on vacation this week, or today at least, and is not with us. Her name is Jolynn Garrett, but our business manager is here. That's Emily Shanahan.
Hey guys.
All right, and we are excited to be hosting you and talking to you from a place of near certainty that camp is actually going to happen this summer. There a couple of weeks back there, things were feeling a little shaky, but it seems like we've pulled through and are ready for a gorgeous summer at camp. This evening, we're going to dive into, first we're gonna refresh COVID-19 status, protocols, and explanation of what the latest updates from the state mean for us. We're going to talk through some more specifics on arriving at camp as well as departing, the end of your week at camp. We'll talk through some updates about program, not so much about merit badges and such, as you're all still, or as many of you are still working on selecting bundles, but through some of the daily living at camp and things to consider that maybe you wouldn't normally. I want to hit a reminder on some key dates that are approaching for where we're going, and then we'll have a big chunk of time for any questions that you have to bring up all those things that are really important for us. So here are some key remembrances for COVID-19. So first, there's a whole host of guidelines from the state on how camps are able to safely operate during COVID-19. There's a few key ones that I wanted to make sure were still fresh in people's mind. The biggest one is that before you arrive at camp, or I guess maybe as you arrive at camp, everyone who comes to camp, staff, adult leaders, and the scouts need to either, one, be fully vaccinated, which means it's been 2 weeks since their last vaccine dose, or two, they need to have a negative COVID test no more than 3 days before arrival and remain safely quarantined until they arrive at camp. Notably, the state does not say what kind of test you need to use, just that you have that negative test. I've spoken with a number of troops recently that have asked about this. And what we've realized is that, the morning your troop departs for camp, you could use those at-home rapid tests that like Walmart carries for, $20 for a 2-pack. Take that test, get a bunch of negatives, get in the car and drive to camp, and you're there. There's no quarantining required because you're just heading to camp. So that's perfectly acceptable. We need that record that negative test was taken. So, depending on the outcome of that test, you could even take a photo with the scout and the test and that sort of thing. And we can verify that, yes, that negative test happened. Vaccination is, of course, a great option as well. I just got my second shot. Finally, it took me a little bit to get my first one scheduled, but I just got my second shot on Friday, and I'm rapidly heading towards that fully vaccinated status, and I'm pretty happy about that. During camp, the biggest impact from the state guidelines that everyone's going to feel is this cohort model. Remember, the cohort model says that we're going to create essentially super patrols of up to 16 people who are able to closely interact with each other. They remain a tight-knit group throughout the week. They travel together, they eat together, they share sleeping space, and that's, again, up to 16 scouts in a cohort. If you're bringing less than 16 scouts, that's awesome. Your whole troop is a cohort. If you're bringing more than 16 scouts, that means that you're looking to subdivide into 2 or maybe 3 cohorts in order to meet that restriction. If your troop is one that is subdividing, we're not going to split you up into different campsites, but we will work with you to identify cohort-specific sleeping spaces. And then within your troop, you'll work to make sure that the scouts from 2 different cohorts don't actually break that 6-foot physical distancing barrier. To assist with that, we'll have wristbands. If your troop is split into multiple cohorts, every cohort will have their own color of wristband. And so you'll know scouts with the same colored wristband, same cohort, scouts with different colored wristbands, different cohorts. There will be some repetition between troops. You know, troop A or troop 15 and troop 16 may both have red cohorts, but if 16 is multiple cohorts, then the different cohorts will have different colors. The 16 scout definition, the way we've interpreted the state's guidance is that adults don't count as campers, they count more as staff. And so a cohort is 16 scouts, that's the youth members. Our recommendation is that every cohort should have 2 or 3 leaders assigned to it, depending on how many you're bringing. So if you've got 30 scouts coming, you may have 2 15-person cohorts. If that means you've got 5 adults coming with those 30 scouts, then you're going to assign 2 adults to one cohort and 3 adults to the other. And they'll be connected to that cohort. We'll use the same distancing expectations and different colored bands, but they won't count towards that 16-person limit. 692 is wondering if they can, when they're splitting cohorts, if they have to be the same size. So let's say that I have 25 scouts coming. I might make a 16-person cohort, and that would leave me with 9 additional scouts in that other one. So you don't, we're gonna leave it up to you what you think the best split is. I also know that some of those larger troops have said, well, we're gonna take just our 7 new scouts and call them one cohort. And then we're gonna take the other 15 scouts who have been to camp at least once or twice and call them a different cohort. And that's a pretty big size difference, but it means that those first year scouts are gonna spend more time in Pathfinders and in some of the merit badges that the rest of the scouts will have done. So that's definitely an option and a consideration that you could be making. The other big guideline from the state that I wanted to make sure we all remember is about masking, and that is that masks should be worn at all times when you're interacting with, well, really masks should be worn at all times, and there's exceptions within cohorts. When you're eating or sleeping, if you're at the swim beach, that sort of thing, we aren't gonna need to wear masks. So masking in particular I know has been changed by the CDC. And so that brings me to my next slide here. About a week and a half ago, Governor Inslee announced that by June 30th, most businesses would leave restrictive guidelines and would be reopened with maybe some allowances for indoor capacities or that kind of thing. However, he specifically communicated with us through the Washington State Camps Coalition that that camp should still plan to follow the phase 3 guidance that was released on March 23rd, and that has all of those key restrictions that we saw earlier. Even though most businesses will be opening, because of that concentration of youth together, he's I guess being extra cautious in that regard, and is asking us to follow those guidelines. We do expect the CDC to come out with some updated camp guidance that will incorporate some of these eased restrictions they have, especially for fully vaccinated people. And when those come out, we're hoping to really press the governor to ease up some of the restrictions that he's applied to camps. As soon as we know about that, we'll let you know, because we understand that these restrictions make planning difficult. But at the moment, we're planning to proceed with this phase 3 program that we developed and released as in our program guide. Even if things completely open up and everything goes back to normal, we'll still look real hard at the planning we've done and see how we can incorporate an ease of restrictions without completely flipping camp back on its feet again, since it's been flipped on its head already. Again, until we know more and see what happens, we're playing it by ear and sticking with those restrictions. All right. Arriving at camp, I wanted to think through particularly this first day at camp. So in terms of traveling to camp, our recommendation is that ahead of time, you'll know what your cohorts are. And you can build your carpool so that scouts that are in the same cohort are traveling in the same vehicles together. That means that you know from the get-go, from the parking lot, before you even depart for camp, that we've already established those boundaries, that scouts from within those cohorts aren't going to be mixing. And so when you arrive at camp, we'll just keep those cohorts separated the way they are, and be moving right from the get-go. When you arrive at camp, we are going to be reaching out to you and assigning an arrival time. We're assigning times between 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock, 2 troops at a time on the half hour. So 12, 12:30, 1, 1:30, and so forth. If you have a reason to think that you've need a particular arrival time, if you're coming from a long distance and you'd like a later time or an earlier time or that sort of thing, you should please feel free to send me an email, and we'll take that into account when we assign your arrival times. But we ask you to do your best to arrive in your assigned window. There's a whole ballet that's going to happen when you arrive that starts with you remaining in your car while a staff member does the symptom screening that we need to do just right there from the car seats. We'll make sure that no one's feeling any COVID symptoms. We'll do a quick temperature check, and then direct you through unloading the car, getting any troop gear moved in or moving it in yourself with a vehicle, medical checks, a tour of camp, and all of that stuff. So it's important for us to that ballet, in order for that ballet to proceed well, we want to stick to schedule as much as we can. Obviously, we know that that things happen, tires break, bathroom breaks have to happen, all of that stuff. So we'll work with you to adapt and overcome as necessary. I wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to see that swim checks are there. We do have an option this year for your troop to complete pre-camp swim checks. We know that not every pool is open, not every troop is going to have the ability to do this, and that is fine. We're prepared and ready to do swim checks at camp for everyone who needs it. But if you would like to skip that step, you can work with a certified lifeguard at a local pool to get your scouts through swim checks ahead of time. And that form is part of the program guide, so you can fill that out and bring it with you. And then we'll just fill out the buddy tags based on those results ahead of time. If you have some scouts who can make it and some who can't, we could even work with that. You know, part of your troop can go down and do them when they arrive at camp. The other part that we're able to do it ahead of time, we'll do it there. Continuing on with that arrival at camp, that first day at camp, we're not going to be doing a large congregate campfire that first night. There's a lot of decisions and discussions and settling into camp that's going to happen, and especially for troops that arrive at 3 or 4 o'clock, they're going to need a little more time than normal to be ready for that sort of thing. So what we recommend that first night at camp is a plan for a good troop PLC. There's going to be some choices for your troop to make, including selecting what they want to do in their free evening slots and their Wednesday activity slots. There's going to be, we're going to ask you to tell us if and how many servings of things like oatmeal or breakfast cereal you'd like during the mornings at breakfast, so that we aren't shipping out lots of extra food. We don't want to be wasteful. So things like cereal cups and milk bottles and that sort of thing. We want to send out appropriate numbers, not one for every person if only three kids are going to eat it. So we'll ask you to give us some guidance on how much of that you'd like. We're also aware that a number of troops have been concerned that while bundles may offer some options for the majority of their scouts, that there will be a few within a cohort, especially older scouts, who maybe already have everything in a particular selection and will not have anything to do. And so to address this, we're developing some add-on merit badges. These are some merit badges that we think are pretty unique or aren't often offered at camp, and that also can be done largely self-directed. And so we'll have resources for those older scouts to select these materials. They'll be delivered to your campsite. The scouts can work on them independently or maybe in a small group without much staff direction, maybe working with one of your adult leaders to help them through some of the needs. And then we'll collect the paperwork at the end of the week or as they finish and turn them into merit badges. So this allows hopefully some more flexibility to this bundle system, and especially for those older scouts, gives them something else to look towards working on. Okay. We also know that there's likely to be all sorts of things that your troop may need to work through, things like their duty roster for the week, needs that scouts have if they've forgotten gear or have extra gear or what have you. All of those will be things that they need, even just a report out from the leaders meeting that'll happen at 5 o'clock. These are all things that can happen that first night. We also wanted to make sure you're thinking about the fact that you'll be spending more time in your campsite this week than maybe you're normally used to. Typically during the day, scouts are probably not in their campsites much at all until the end of the afternoon program. But in this case, depending on your classes, you'll be spending significant portions of the day in the campsite. And so taking a little more time to make it your own, different camp improvement projects, pioneering projects that can go in, building gateways, getting a good amount of firewood split and ready for the week, or gathering firewood from the central woodshed. All sorts of things that'll make camp a little more comfortable for everyone, and a little more fun for everyone could be done. There are picnic tables for every patrol group and every campsite. Yes, Bob. Absolutely. So if you're in an Adirondack site, every Adirondack has attached to it an extended shelter that holds one of our bear-proof picnic tables, we call them. They're bear-proof but scout resistant. But they're nice and big. They'll hold 10 scouts at a table, although they're designed for a patrol of 8. And then in a stent site, every patrol group of stents, every 3 of them, has a picnic table and shelter that's part of that group. All right. Moving on to the end of the week with departure. Typically at Fire Mountain, we like to have a bit of pomp and circumstance to our end of the week. We'll have a nice kind of late breakfast with some food. You can actually sit down and have a full breakfast. And then do a big closing ceremony, make some final award presentations and that sort of thing. All of these are challenging to do when we're not having a big congregation. And so we're doing a more streamlined process. Just like all of the meals, breakfast will be delivered to your campsite, where we've got some nice hearty breakfast sandwiches that'll come out all individually wrapped and ready to go. As you wake up on Saturday morning, you can immediately start cleaning up camp. By 7:30, both your campsite guide will arrive in your campsite to help finish with pack up and complete the checkout procedure, as well as all of your advancement paperwork and such will be ready for checkout up in the center of camp by 7:30 a.m. as well. So 1 or 2 adult leaders can come up, review that material and make sure that it's all accurate and complete. As soon as the campsite is cleaned and checked out and the paperwork is done, you've eaten your breakfast, you're free to go. So our goal is that everyone can be on the road as early as 9 o'clock or earlier, if that's what they want to be doing. This also gives us plenty of time to do a good sanitization and everything before the staff get their break and the next troop comes in. So hopefully it works well for everyone's plans. Some thoughts about just camp living during the week. First, dining in your campsite is a new thing for us. We've got a couple of test weeks coming up where we're going to get to see what some of that will look like, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to do. We mentioned in the program guide there's about 5 meals that we're actually giving you the opportunity to cook in your campsite. That's breakfasts and 2 dinners. We'll take care of all of the lunches in the middle of the day. We want to talk about managing food in the campsite. We do have a aggressive raccoon population that will not hesitate to go into your stents or Adirondacks, sometimes even when scouts are there, if they smell a lot of food. And so we want to encourage your troop not to hoard food that's left over or that kind of thing. We're going to be doing daily trash pickup to make sure that there's no garbage bags that are attracting them. If you are bringing snacks and that sort of thing, it's a great idea to have it in a secure container, maybe even something with latches or locks that will prevent animals from getting into it and learning that there's a good food source there. Make sure your scouts are thinking about that too. Maybe they need a patrol box or lock box that they can all put their snacks and personal food into to keep it secure. Dishwashing is a particular Dishwashing is a particular thing to be aware of. We have hand washing stations in every campsite, and a lot of troops, especially in the off season, look at that and see it as a dishwashing station as well. The challenge with that is that there's no drainage, there's no septic system. It just pours food particles right into the gravel at the end of the tray, which means that if that's your primary food washing station, it creates a sump that's going to attract animals as well. Instead, we recommend and really encourage that you implement the traditional scouting 3-pot method for every cohort, that they've got their 3 bins, one that they can put soapy water in, another that'll do a rinse, and then the last one that'll sanitize. We ask you not to bring bleach to camp for that sanitizing purpose. We're going to be providing some sanitation tablets that are also eco-friendly that you can use in that 3rd sanitizing step for every meal. So there will be plenty of sanitizing going on there. Let's see, Duke is wondering what equipment we need to bring. Duke, you mean especially for campsite cooking? Assuming we're looking there, all of the meals that we've designed for you to cook can be cooked with nothing but a Dutch oven over coals. But we know that lots of troops either are not comfortable or familiar with Dutch oven cooking, or just have preferences to do it with their own way. So bringing a camp stove, griddle, a couple of pots should be enough for every cohort. Sorry, I said griddle, like a skillet, that sort of thing. So your basic patrol cooking gear. The specific meals that you'll be cooking are in the program guide. And so that'll give you a feel for what equipment your troop's going to be most comfortable with. That being said, again, everything can be cooked in a Dutch oven with a ladle or a spoon over an open fire, and we can provide those materials for you if that's what your scouts would like to do. Okay, in addition to troop cooking gear, every scout should be bringing their own mess kit, eating out of and cleaning after every meal, at least making it camp clean, I suppose. But that's what that 3-pot method then is for. So bringing three bins that you can do your cleaning in, and following that system is going to be key. In terms of sanitation, we're going to be providing materials for you to completely sanitize your outhouse, your picnic tables, the wash station, all of those things daily. And so you don't need to worry about materials or chemicals for that sort of thing. We also have a new crew on staff we call our health and safety ambassadors. This group of staff members are going to be in charge of cleaning all of the common spaces like the shower houses and bathrooms at least twice daily, but they'll also be there to interface with all of you in your campsites. If you have any questions about how to go about adequately sanitizing your spaces, or you need more equipment or any of that sort of thing, they'll be checking in with you on a daily basis as they move through camp to make sure that your needs are met. So those ambassadors there are specifically designed to be your resources when it comes to staying clean and COVID safe in that regard. When traveling camp, because we have this cohort system, largely we've anticipated and been planning around cohorts moving around camp together, not a lot of kind of free exploration. We're hoping that one of the restrictions we're going to be able to ease up based on the CDC's new guidance is to allow for more individual groups of scouts to travel camp. And so in that case, as always, the buddy system will be most important. There should never be a case where a scout's moving through camp alone. They should always have at least one friend, if not more. Bikes are welcome and encouraged at camp. We've got great roads, but they do go on a ways. So if scouts want to bring bikes and use those to move around camp, that's great. We do have some guidelines around moving through the center of camp. Scouts shouldn't be biking through the center of camp. They can follow the roads around it or park their bike and walk through it and that sort of thing, depending on where they're going. Fishing, of course, is open in Lake Challenge, and you'll likely have scouts who want to go fishing at all hours of the day. As long as they're with a buddy, that's great. just understand and make sure your scouts understand that when they're traveling camp, whether they're with their cohort or not, that 6 feet of physical distancing between cohorts still applies, which means that, you know, if they see other scouts down on the lake fishing, that's great, but they shouldn't get closer than 6 feet. They shouldn't break those boundaries. We'll see how much restrictions we can ease up to allow scouts to move around camp as we get closer. We're hoping to be able to allow as much freedom as we can. Great question about fishing. Lake Challenge is a privately owned lake, which means that there's no fishing licenses required. We stock the lake annually. In for 2020, we stocked the lake good and full, and then of course didn't have any scouts to fish them out. However, even so, we stocked it again this year, a little less, but the lake is definitely full. Now the ospreys, the eagles, the seabirds have had a real buffet available for them, but that lake is chock full of rainbow trout ready to just jump into your scouts' hands. So they should definitely be ready to come. We've got fishing equipment that can be checked out if they don't have it. We'll have bait available in the trading post if they didn't bring it or if they run out. There are some limits, but they're all what we call possession limits. So a scout can go out and catch a couple of fish, but once they've got those 2 fish, they should do something with them. They can take them back to camp, they can clean them, they can cook them, eat them, share them with their friends. Now they don't have any fish in their possession, they can go catch 2 more. We don't want to see a scout catching 20 fish, bringing them back to camp, throwing them in the bushes, that sort of thing. But 2 fish at a time, they can catch all that they want. With adults, we ask that adults go fishing with scouts, not just by themselves, and they should do that 1 fish possession limit rather than 2, because it's largely designed for scouts to take advantage of. Let's see. Michael suggests that you should come to camp with a plan for cooking all of those fish that you catch. And he's absolutely right. Bringing in a little bit of oil, some lemon and salt, and a good fry pan over the fire, that can be a great experience for a scout to have at camp. Not only do they catch the fish, they have to learn how to clean it. They cook it, they eat it. They get a lot of satisfaction out of that. And I've certainly seen scouts just fall in love with that. There's lots of great methods for cooking a fish over the open fire that are even shown in the Boy Scout handbook that they can explore and learn how to do. So bringing some equipment along with you to help them explore those, that is a great thing to do. All right. A few more bits about camp living. The general store at Fire Mountain, or I should say the Turner General Store at Fire Mountain, is a brand new building. We started this right after camp ended in 2019, had a bit of a slowdown because of COVID that we finally got caught back up on, and about 2 weeks ago had our grand opening for the building. It is probably the finest camp store in the country. It's 4 times the space that we've had, all new fridges for plenty of soda and drinks and ice cream. We've got Slurpee machine, although I can't call it a Slurpee machine. An iced drink machine we're calling Fire Mountain Glacial Melt, available in the store. Rumor is that there's going to be a espresso machine in there, although it isn't there yet. So we'll see if the order comes off of backlog or not, and we get it in time for you to enjoy. But we've got lots of great new merchandise in there that we're really excited to share. We're excited to have scouts come in and check it out. As I said, it is fully stocked. In terms of visiting the store, we explored the ideas of having troops like sign up for times to come visit, in order to avoid cohort crossing and that sort of thing. We're not going to try and do that because it limits that kind of free access to the store. But we will have to follow some capacity limitations from the state based on their retail store guidance. And so as we get closer to the end of June and we see what those guidelines look like, we'll understand how many folks can be in at once, and we'll communicate very clearly about what that experience will be like. I included a space here because I figured as I went through some of this daily camp living, I would come up with ideas that I forgot to include here. But nothing's sticking in my head. Emily, is there anything that sticks out to you that I haven't mentioned?
No, not that I can tell.
Great. Well then, let me move right on ahead. So we've got several key dates that are approaching here. I want to make sure you're all aware of. First, merit badge bundle requests are due here at the end of the month. That request form was sent out to you a couple of weeks ago, or right around the start of the month. The form that was sent was intended to help you organize information, and then there's a link to a survey page that was included on that page, and that's where we need that information to go, is onto that survey form. So use the form to organize your information, organize your cohorts and that sort of thing, but then it needs to be entered into that online form. Remember that if your troop is big enough to have multiple cohorts, you should enter one request form for each cohort that you're bringing. The next date to pay attention to is the t-shirt pre-order form. This came out at the same time as the bundle requests. This is due June 4th. Again, the form that we sent out is to help you organize your information, but then the actual orders should go into the Black Pug registration system. There's an entry under the registration contact information for you to tell us the t-shirt sizes that you want and whether you're doing the customization or not. And that's where that needs to go. After June 4th is when we'll send that off to our t-shirt folks. So we need you to do your best to be on time with that. And then third, any special needs requests that are out there are due by June 15th. This year in particular, because we're shipping food to campsites, we really need to be on the ball, especially if there's any special food needs, allergies, or special diets that we need to be with. If there's anyone with some extreme needs, our cook will be reaching out to them personally to make sure he understands what they need, and whether it might be necessary for them to bring some additional food if their needs are special, or are particularly special. So those special needs request forms, we've not seen a lot of them, and I think I've only seen 8 or 10, and in a normal summer I might see more like 50 or 60. So please make sure that if you have scouts who have those needs, that they are shared. Okay, and I see we've got some questions going on there. Hit the wrong button there. All right, we've got time for some of your questions, and I will start by taking a look at the chat, seeing if I missed anything there. I see picnic tables. Carla asked, should we just keep the trail to first class scouts in a cohort together, or will older scouts added to that cohort be able to supplement beyond Paul Bunyan? What amount of time is needed for Paul Bunyan? Can they do other badges? So Carla, that's a great question. The Pathfinders section that we were producing for this cohort model is designed to really cater to the needs of your scouts. If you have first year scouts who just need everything, we'll dive into all of those skills. If you've got maybe some scouts who've been hanging around Tenderfoot for a while and just need a couple of things to move on to second class, then we can tailor it to those needs. So if you have a group of brand new first years who just want to focus on advancement, they could sign up for Pathfinders multiple times and work on different things in each section. So in terms of including older scouts with those cohorts, I think it would depend on how you want to use Pathfinders. If you think that just one session is enough, Paul Bunyan will scale well to keep a group of scouts busy across the 4 hours of time for a single bundle time slot. That's 2 hours across 2 days, either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday will be a single time slot. If you're going to assign scouts to Pathfinders multiple times, you may want to assign that cohort, to keep that cohort limited to first year scouts, to make sure that your older scouts aren't getting bored or not getting the attention that they need. On the other hand, if you've got a troop guide or some troop guides that work with those younger scouts, then signing them all up for Pathfinders and leveraging those troop guides in their leadership positions to really dig into helping to teach and help those scouts advance. Maybe that's the way you want to give them some advancement time and some leadership time. I'm happy to talk more about specifics with you, Carla, or anyone if you're looking for some more guidance on how to use those programs. I did mention the add-on merit badges, and those are another definite possibility during Pathfinder time. If you've got older scouts who want to work on one of those add-ons, then that could be a time they could work on it during Pathfinders. Let's see, continuing through our questions here. Jennifer asked if scouts should bring personal money for the store, and I see that Emily did answer her here, but I'll just make sure that that's seen by everyone. We do encourage scouts to bring some money for snacks, program fees, and some souvenir items. We used to recommend, like for a long time, we recommended about $60 was enough. Because of inflation, we think now maybe $75 is a better choice. There's nothing, of course, required in the general store, but having some money for those items can certainly enhance things. Emily mentions that if they're looking for something like a Fire Mountain hoodie, those sell for $40, and so that could be a significant purchase for them based on what they're bringing. T-shirts cost around $15, and let's see, patches at camp anywhere from $3 to $5 depending on the patch. I see Ken is wondering, is it practical for scouts to do both Pathfinder and a merit badge bundle? So Ken, I may have addressed this. Our vision for Pathfinders this year is that it fits the same amount of time slot as any other merit badge bundle. So your first year scouts could do one session of Pathfinders. That leaves them with 5 other sessions for advancement options. Now maybe they want to do 2 or 3 sessions with Pathfinders, but then they've got time still for up to 3 other merit badges for a total of 6, or 3 other bundles for a total of 6. So I think it's eminently practical for scouts to get some benefit out of both of those choices. PM Will is wondering if you will select campsites in advance or if we're assigning them to you. We'll be assigning campsites to you, and we're taking your requests and preferences into account and doing our best to get you your top 1 or 2 choices there. And let's see, we will probably announce that before you get to camp, although you may find out when you arrive. I think we're just about settled with everyone moving around, although we have had some folks leaving week 2. If you're in a situation where week 2 could be a better time slot for your troop this late in the game, and you have an interest in changing weeks, please do reach out to me because we've got lots of space there now, particularly if you're in week 1, which is a little overloaded. But we're ready to meet everyone wherever they're at too. Michael wonders if they'll be able to bring vehicles to the campsite for drop-off. Yes, when you arrive at camp on Sunday, you'll be able to drive 1 vehicle into your campsite, offload, and then bring the vehicle back out. We know that troops may be bringing extra gear, especially with all the cooking and that sort of thing this year. So if you have like a troop trailer that you just want to bring in and drop and leave there for the week and bring the vehicle out, that is something that you can do as well. Okay. Jim is wondering, how do we select bundles for different age groups and needs? So I know this is a question that lots of troops have had and asked how do we, if we've got a cohort of scouts that range from 11 to 16 or 11 to 17, how do we select bundles that are gonna meet everyone's needs? I think the truth there, Jim, is that some variety across the spectrum is gonna be the spice of life. You may wind up with a bundle selection that some of your older scouts aren't able to engage with. You may wind up with a bundle selection that is a little advanced or challenging for some of your younger scouts, depending on the time. We're gonna because of the lack of flexibility or the restrictions that are on us by COVID, we may all have to deal with a little bit of challenge there. Our hope is that things like Pathfinders and some of those add-on merit badges that we'll be offering will help to expand those choices and make everything a little bit more flexible. We usually try and offer everything to everyone, and this year we're having to be a little more restrictive in how we do that, and we apologize for that situation this year. Troop 692 is wondering if we know what add-on merit badges will be offered. Yes, we've got a list that we're in the final stages of developing, and we intend to share that with you, as well as the menu. Those two items we've just about finalized and will be coming out to you probably within the next week. And that'll can let you know the whole menu and what's coming up, as well as what those add-on options will be. Again, those add-ons will be requested when you arrive at camp. Lots of people wanting to know about add-on merit badges. Great. PM Will is wondering if we'll be able to set up an account for your troop for merit badge fees. At this time, we're not working on that. PM Will and everyone. We tried to implement merit badge fees through our Black Pug system in 2019. And we found a lot of challenge with that because scouts showed up at camp and they changed their minds, and all of a sudden we had to give like $3 refunds to a troop or charge an extra $7, and it created a real hassle for us from the accounting side of things. And so we aren't charging fees ahead of time or that sort of thing. Instead, it'll all be completed as just purchases through the trading post. And so scouts will be able to make those purchases there.
Eric?
Yes.
This is Pete Wilhelm. So what I was referring to was a lot of times in the trading post or camp store at camps, various camps, they'll have a 3-ring binder and they'll have like Troop 168, our troop listed. And then when a kid's doing wood carving or leather work, they'll get that kit and that'll be written down, and then we just would settle with a troop check at the end of camp. Not ice cream bars, not Cokes. That's what their fund money's for, but for those other things. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about paying in advance, identifying and paying them in advance.
Gotcha.
So do you do that kind of thing?
Well, hey, business manager, what do you think about that? And sorry, I'm putting you on the spot with that one.
Barking.
Emily, are you there? All right, she might be away from the screen at the moment. Pete, that sounds like something that we can probably work out. I don't want to guarantee that yes, we'll have that set up, because my business manager might change my mind for me. But that sounds like a really great idea that we need to look at. So we're going to take a look at it and see if we can get it implemented. That sounds like a great way for troops to manage that.
Well, it's just nice because if a kid's doing rifle shooting and a whole bunch of stuff with fees, as opposed to his, bunkmates not doing anything with fees, and one gets a sweatshirt and one doesn't have enough money for it,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when they both bring the same amount of money, but because of their activity fees, they end up in a different situation. So it's just one way to handle it, but it requires people to step up and pay their ticket at the end too. So
that's true. That's true.
Okay.
We'll definitely look into it, because it sounds like a pretty good idea, especially this year. Becky's wondering if there is a camp improvement competition every week, because that would be pretty funny if we're improving camp constantly each week. So in the program guide, we do have something called the Great Cohort Challenge. So camp-wide games, especially towards the end of the week, are a great tradition at summer camps. For years, we've run the Lake Challenge, which was a troop competition that took the form of a 4-stage race, a quadrathlon, if you will, that involved swimming and canoeing across the lake, running and biking around it. Sometimes we added bouldering or climbing elements to it, depending on the year. a big competition like that, of course, is going to bring everyone together in a way that we're not allowed to. And so instead, what we've envisioned is something that's a little more free form. It's a series of 12 to 15 events that we're nailing down the last couple. So we'll see what the final number is. But these will be stationed events throughout camp, permanently set up. And during the week, each cohort can go to that event. We'll complete it, record their time or record their score and submit it to their commissioners, who will be tracking it on a central scoreboard in camp. During the week, then your cohort might wander by and see, oh gosh, you know, Troop 356 just beat us again on the obstacle course. Let's go back to the obstacle course. And they're going to go back and spend more time there working to beat that score. And so throughout the week, they'll be competing against each other, even though they've got that separation. And so there will be a wide series of events. Hopefully every cohort will find one or two that they really enjoy and want to specialize in and focus on. And that allows that element of inter-troop competition throughout the week, even if we can't all gather together. So all that to say, Becky, that a campsite improvement competition against each other might be happening each week as part of this cohort challenge, even if we aren't comparing troops across weeks, because then, you know, hopefully by the end of the summer, camp will just be gorgeous. Carla is wondering if Paul Bunyan is equal to one section or bundle. So yes, Carla, if a cohort signs up for Pathfinders, your younger scouts will have, that's a 4-hour time slot that Pathfinders bundle incorporates, that the younger scouts will be working on. And at the same time, the older scouts will be working on Paul Bunyan for that same amount of time. And Paul Bunyan is a hefty enough award that they'll be able to really dig into it and spend that significant amount of time working to complete the award while other scouts are working on Pathfinders. Duke asks, how many bundles do the youth need to select, and how do we indicate multiple slots for the same bundle, like several sessions at the ranges? So Duke, we ask that each cohort selects 8 bundles, and we're going to do our best to get you 6 of them. Multiple times at the ranges. We do mention that because we want to give every troop an opportunity to have at least one bundle at a range, as well as every troop an opportunity to have at least one bundle at in the water, either at the beach or the marina. We will be assigning those one at a time until every troop has them. And so if you're looking to get multiple times at the ranges, for instance, then make sure those are your first, second, and third choice, so that as we're going around after that initial assignment, we'll know that it's a high priority for you. But we're not going to be able to guarantee that everyone will get multiple bundle assignments to the ranges. We're doing our best to make sure everyone gets at least one. Tim is wondering if this recording will be available to view later. Absolutely. Both my slides as well as the recording will be available on the website. That'll happen in the next day or two. Let's see, Troop 692 is wondering, will open time at the ranges be available? So Troop 92, both during the Wednesday time slots and the evening time slots, open shooting at the ranges will be available. Those, we're gonna give priority on those to troops that maybe didn't choose a range slot or get a range slot, depending on availability there. But yes, there is a limited amount of open time available. Mac McCormick is one of our, district commissioners for Pilchuck District here in Mount Baker Council. He's wondering if his unit commissioners are going to be able to come up and visit their troops while they're at camp. Now, this is something we usually love to do. It's great to have your commissioner visit you at camp. Oftentimes they might bring some s'mores or some cocoa or something to say hello and check in and see how their troop's doing. That's going to be a challenge for us this summer. Because one of the other restrictions that COVID has given us is that that the state has given us because of COVID, I should say, is that we're not supposed to have visitors at camp. Mac, and I know you sent this just to me, but I wanted to mention that visitor thing to everyone. Visitors who come in just for the day, that sort of thing, are not, we're not able to welcome them to camp the way we normally would. If you have adult leaders who are switching out during the week, we've got some specific guidance around how that needs to happen in the program guide or the leader's guide. And the short of it is that we aren't able to have a leader leave and then come back later in the week. Once a leader leaves, that they're done for their stay at camp. When a new one comes in, they need to follow the same guidance around being either vaccinated or having that negative test when they arrive, and they have to do all of the same pre-screening when they arrive and symptom checks and that sort of thing. All right. All right. I think I've hit all the questions that are in the chat window right now. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask or snide remarks to make or any of that sort of stuff? Dave's saying cars can drop off at a start of week and pick up at the end of the week without being counted as visitors. Yes, Dave. Your drivers who are coming to camp just to drop off and pick up are welcome. They won't leave the parking lot. They won't, violate the cohort thing. I should mention that drivers do need to be able to pass that symptom screening when they come in. So we'll check with drivers, even if they're not staying, to make sure that they don't have any COVID symptoms as well. So that is the only caveat to that, is that while they're welcome to leave, we want to make sure that they didn't just spend 2 hours in a car with a bunch of scouts that have just been exposed to something.
If I could ask about the special diets, my son is one who has a bunch of food allergies. You mentioned filling out a form, part of the survey. Is that something I should do for him now, or is that something where we're supposed to collect all the information from any scout in our troop that might have such a restriction and submit it all at once?
So it's fine either way. If it comes in onesies and twosies, we'll really start looking at the list after that deadline of the 15th. And if it comes in afterwards, we'll do our best there as well. If your son has a lot of those allergies and some special requests, then the earlier is the better, because we've already looked at the ones we've received. So it's probably worth your time to complete that submission now. And that special needs form can be found on the registration page. If you haven't seen it, then whoever your registration contact is should be able to point it out to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Let's see, Bob is wondering which masks are approved. We're looking at neck gaiters with our troop logo and wondering if they're acceptable. So Bob, as long as they're at least double layered, then neck gaiters are great. The really thin ones that are just like dust guards and that kind of thing don't have that 2-layer need, but they're depending on the product that you're looking at. Yeah, then gaiters are fine. In fact, we're going to have a Fire Mountain gaiter available in the trading post, as well as Fire Mountain masks. Right. I'm going to go ahead and say thanks to everyone for coming. And I'm going to end the recording here. So thank you for coming.